Alright, you bastards. This is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today we're going to talk about 10 guilty pleasure items you can take in your bug out bag. But before we do that, before we start, this is the first part of an 11 part detective series that I wrote. If you're interested in crime stories, this is the first part. It's in Dutch, called Bloody Crosses. Look down in the description, I would say. Alright, so guilty pleasures. What do I mean by this? A friend of mine told me the once during a hike. He said there is always room in your bug out bag for one guilty pleasure. That's just actually a luxury item that could make your hike or your bug out a little bit more comfortable. So it's not really necessary, but it makes it a lot more, or like I said, comfortable actually. So what are these items? I do not say that you need all these items, but each item is something that you might put in your bug out bag if you have a little bit more room, and yeah, it could make life a little bit more easier during the bug out or perhaps a hike. So yeah, let's start with the first ones. That is the thing that a friend of mine took with him. That is one of those foldable chairs. Like you can see, this is very small, almost weigh nothing. And yeah, any time that we took a break during the hiking, they just popped his chair out from his bag, opened it, and he could sit on it. And when we made a campfire, he had always a dry place to sit by, or when he had to do some cooking or some other little task that he needed to do, he always popped his chair out, and it's actually a good. This is actually the thing that I would put in my bug out bag as a guilty pleasure. It's just small, light, and can make life so much more easier that you do not have to dry your pants or your socks while you're sitting, while risking in changing your shoes or your socks and getting them wet in the forest, on the forest ground that might be damp or moisty. So yeah, this is something actually handy and could save a lot of things, but it's not really that necessary. All right. Next one. Um, well, let's go from big to one. Around booze. Well, booze is not really necessary, and yeah, it's not. It's not. How do you say this? Justifiable to take this with you, to say, oh, I'll take it for in disinfecting wounds or starting a fire, because, or even for the calories, because yeah, depends on what booze depends. Actually, this rum. This contains some sugars and thereby some calories that you can use for energy and perhaps to keep morale up and just for fun. And yeah, that perhaps you need some more water, but you do not drink yourself to the ground, to say. So yeah, this is something, if you go alone or by a group, a stiff drink could be a little bit pleasurable. It's not really necessary. It does not contain enough like I said, calories to justify it, and yeah, it's too low for disinfecting wounds or making a fire. But it's just a fun thing to take you with you. Oh, and yeah, that's the only thing good about. Next thing is snacks. Snacks. What do I mean by snacks? Those are things that are not really good in nutritions or calories for the size. So I'm talking about snacks like, I saw some people take a bag of chips with them, and that's not really justifiable for this amount that you, the amount of volume that you have in your bug out bag towards the food, the benefit of food that you get. So it is more more just like with the boost, to make some things comfortable. It could be used as a sort of comfort food for people that you take on with your bug out during a very stressful situation. Some people need something to comfort them during stress, and some people do that by food. So if you're going to take some sort of snack with you, try to make it as something that you can share with other people, and that could be very um, little by volume, so a compact mass. So what I would advise is, instead of something like chips or marshmallows, some this popcorn. Like you can see, this is very small, very tiny, and yeah, if you put this on the fire and it will start to pop, 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 it will create this kind of bag with popcorn. It's not that much calories in it, so but yeah, it's a sort of comfort food. And if you're going to take it, take something like this that you can how do you say this is create something bigger with to share for the keeping the morale high. It's warm food, which is always good if you have a campfire. And yeah, the only downside is it can leave a trail, or you have to put the bag. Uh, it will be this kind of bag that you will have to prop together and put back in your dugout bag. So yeah, this is also something that you can do. Next thing is utensils. We all like to eat with utensils, but in my opinions, if you have one of these big set of utensils, like a fork, a knife, a spoon, yeah, that could be handy, but it's not really necessary. I would say if you, as long as you got your survival knife and perhaps just a spoon or something that you combine to make lighter weight, like a spork that you can use as a fork and a spoon at the same time, that could save a lot of weight instead of getting one of these camping sets for utensils. But yeah, could be useful if you want to keep it a little bit classy during dinner. And next thing is this is something that some people will take. I saw some people dragging something like this with you, so a survival book if they're going hiking or in their bug survival plans. But I would not say do not take a book like this because it contains a lot of paper to say. So in that case, I would advise to get one of the smaller pocket editions. This is much more smaller, but it's as long as you know the techniques a little bit and know where you're going and what you can use and you read the book a little bit properly, then you do not really need the book. But this book could be a good refreshment. You have something to read as entertainment if you're on a break or waiting for something, or in the night perhaps. It's something interesting and informative at the same time, and for entertainment purposes perhaps. And yeah, if you want to refresh your memory if you want to experiment during a hike, during a bug out, perhaps not, perhaps not, perhaps you do. Depends on your memory, I would say, but it's not really necessary. But could be handy, could be fun. But get the pocket edition and not the big whopper that I got out of here. Next thing, cooking ware like a pan. I see some people, and I was guilty of this too in the beginning when I made my bug out bag, was to take a pan with me. My idea was to have something deep enough to cook water in and to cook bigger things in it. But for one person, it's not really necessary. Could be a little bit handy if you want to make a bigger meal, or I would more advise is to, if you're going in a group hiking or a bug out, that one person carries a pan, and that way you divide the weight and the utensils, cookware are around the group. But for one person, it's not really that necessarily handy, but not necessarily. And if you've seen what's that movie called, Tangled, you can use it as a self-defense weapon. Uh, I would say. So yeah, a pan not really necessarily, but could be handy if you want to make big dinners. Next thing, deodorant. Anybody who went to hiking and there was not a lot of water sources around know that things could smell, and you can smell very bad. So that's why some people like to take something to to get some of the smell deodors away. So we're talking about deodorant or perhaps a bottle of perfume. I would advise more a bottle of perfume, because a bottle of perfume has more benefits than something like this, because this is almost all this volume for the amount of spray that you get is not really necessary. With a bottle of perfume, you perhaps can make a fire with it by spraying the alcohol content on it, with deodorant if you want to make a fire with it. That is too much oxygen combined with the spray, and that will be harder to make a fire, perhaps. So yeah, I would say not really necessarily, but if you have a specific um, how do you say this, sensitive nose, a bottle of uh, how do we say this, body spray could be a little bit helpful, especially if you're hiking or on a bug out bag with, or going to bug out with that significant other, or perhaps it's not. I would advise to not do it actually, because if you smell very good and you have people around, they can smell you, and it's out of the ordinary in like forest area, and that could be a little bit dangerous if you want to keep a low profile. Next thing, a deck of cards. Yeah, just a deck of playing cards. Could be if you're alone, you could just use it as to, yeah, how do you call this game? Patience to play a deck with you alone, or if you're with somebody else, you can poker for it, or yeah, during times like during in a refugee camp or a checkpoint, if you have to wait in line, you can use a deck of card to keep yourself amused with other people with the same faith. So yeah, it's not really necessary, but it takes less small space and could be handy for future social gatherings or encounters, perhaps. Next thing, shaving, as a raising shaver, razor shaver. What's the name? Yeah, for shaving things. Some people like to take it with them to get a little bit to be a little bit more presentable for during a bug out or for hygienic reasons. They say, but I would say during a bug out, you do not really want to look at your 100% best, because that would mean that you are good off, and that could be attracting robbers or people with bad intentions. So yeah, shaving razor is not really that necessarily, but some people do not like it when it starts to get whole hairy and stuff. But I would never put this in my thing. But I knew some other people that would like to get a shaving uh, that like to shave and keep presentable for some reason during a hike, at least. All right, next thing, an extra pair of boots or walking shoes. Some people like to have a backup of shoes, depending. Some people like it because the terrain is different, or they're walking more on the road, paved road or something, like in cities or villages, or some paths that are in the forests. And some people need some stronger footwear during certain lengths of the bug out route, or during a hike. So that could be like a rocky, if you have to step on rocky material, like in hills, mountainous areas, or paths that are a little perhaps muddy and are a little bit higher, need something higher to prevent mud coming into the boot or the shoe. So yeah, other pair of shoes or boots could be a nice chains, perhaps, depending on the terrain. Not really necessarily, but I would say get one good pair of walking shoes or boots that you will that are strong enough to do on any terrain, and be strong enough to get you to your bug out location or do the end point of the hike. So yeah, not really necessarily, like I said, but some people prefer to change it. Whatever you do, do not use high heels, because that would be a mother effer. One last thing, um, is binoculars. Some people like to take binoculars with them. In my own experience, it's not really that necessarily, because yeah, the only thing I can imagine for binoculars are useful in bug out bags is for looking at the possible hazards and dangerous points, to scout the area, to look onto your map, like, I'm here, I see this in distance, I must be this far away, for navigating areas, for laying low, like OPSEC, and look around to detect possible enemies or hazardous people, or possible dangerous, or to inspect a bridge before you cross it. But what are the chances that you really need it? If you're going to, or during a hike, you can take this to enjoy the landscape. If you want to just enjoy the landscape with the smaller things that you perhaps cannot see or reach, like a waterfall or some cave that you see or some building perhaps that you cannot reach. So yeah, binoculars could be handy in some situations depending on the situations, but not really necessarily. If you get one of these, I would say for for the reasons that I told you, I would prefer to get one of those smaller pocket binoculars with one that you use with one eye. But one of these big ones, yeah, it's more a luxury item. Then it would be worth it to drag it along with you with the space and the volume that it would take. Uh, Another thing, perhaps, uh, toilet paper. Yeah, toilet paper is, yeah, it could be handy for several reasons, but yeah, there is a lot of volume and a lot of toilet paper for perhaps the hike or the bug out route that you're going to take. So I would prefer to take one of these. For another reason is because these are packed together in a closed off packaging, so this could be more sterile for certain uses. Oh my, I need to sneeze. Oh god damn it. Oh, that was a close one. Right, where was I? Ah, toilet paper. This is, like we can see, takes less space in than this. This is more sterile than this. So yeah, toilet paper is more a luxury item, I would say, to wipe your bottom and for perhaps making fire or clean some things like utensils, and yeah, or dressing a wound perhaps. I would more advise to get a few of these than one of these. All right, I think I'm through. Uh, these were 10. This actually it were more. I think luxury items that you can put in your bag bag. Uh, it's like I said, guilty pleasure. If you tell me about your guilty pleasure, if you have a bag bag, what is your unnecessarily item that you put in anyways? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, like, and all that stuff. And yeah, I would say thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Cheers.